Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, and back with me again, Mary, as your host. Today, we continue our journey through sacred spaces, and we travel to New York City to explore St. Patrick's Cathedral. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. St. Patrick's Cathedral is one of New York's most famous landmarks, a Neo-Gothic Catholic masterpiece which can seat 2,400 people, and which 5.5 million visit each year. You don't have to be Catholic to enter. Any religion and ethnicity is welcome, as I learned a few years ago. It was mid-December, and I had entered to marvel at the cathedral. As I looked in the manger, I noticed there was a statue of a yellow Labrador retriever. And the Labrador Retriever statue is based on the cathedral's previous rector, Monsignor Robert Ricci's beloved pet, Lexington. If you're from New York City, you know St. Patrick's Cathedral is located on 5th Avenue and 50 St. Though sometimes visitors with vouchers for the St. Patrick's Catacomb tour are disappointed to learn that their tour is in the Basilica of St. Patrick's Old Cathedral, also known as Old St. Patrick's, on Mulberry Street. Not at St. Patrick's on 5th. I've been to St. Pat's many times since. Sometimes to sit quietly, sometimes to light a candle for a sick friend. There is also a VIP experience curated exclusively for guests of Lot New York Palace. Led by a cathedral historian, the tour would showcase many areas that are not accessible to the public. The sacristy below the main altar, the bishop's crypt, the main altar, and up to the choir loft for jaw-dropping views of the entire cathedral. While the donation price is hefty, $500. 100% of the tour fee is donated to St. Patrick's Cathedral. St. Patrick's was built to replace the old St. Patrick Church on Mulberry Street, the one where the Catacombs tours take place. In the mid-1800s, the Irish immigrating to New York City were scared, nervous, and had no idea what their new lives would be like. Most turned to God for assistance and guidance. In need of a bigger house of worship, and the Catholic Church already owning the land where St. Patrick's Cathedral is located on 5th Avenue. It was decided in 1853 that a new cathedral should be built. Construction started in 1858 and progressed rapidly until 1860, when it was stopped because of a lack of funds and the advent of the American Civil War. In 1864, with the death of Archbishop Hughes, Bishop John McCloskey was installed as the Archbishop of New York, and the end of the Civil War construction restarted. Under the strong direction of Archbishop McCloskey, who would become Cardinal McCloskey, the cathedral was completed on May 25, 1879. St. Patrick's Cathedral was a creation of Archbishop John Hughes, who chose its remote location, a still rural part of Manhattan, so the new cathedral was initially dubbed Hughes Folly. Hughes was known as Dagger John because he was aggressive and wanted to build a cathedral of suitable magnificence. The other two creators were architect James Renwick, who also designed the Smithsonian, NYC's Grace Church, and parts of the Croton Aqueduct, and Cardinal John McCloskey, the first president of St. John's College, now Fordham University. The new cathedral was home for a growing poor population who paid penny donations as well as $1,000 each from 100 donors. In 1878, Cathedral held what would be known as the Great Cathedral Fair to help pay for items needed to finish the cathedral. The architecture of St. Patrick's Cathedral pays tribute to the hard work of its immigrant adherents, both past and present. In 2015, it completed a $300 million restoration. Every year, the fire department does an inspection of the spires. When 5 of those firemen passed away during 9/11, it decided to never erase the scribblings. When St. Patrick's opened 2 days before Christmas, most visitors walked through the main doors, blessed by then Cardinal Spellman. The Cardinal commissioned bronze doors weighing 9 tons with statues of its Catholic immigrant forebearers: St. Isaac Jogues, the first priest of New York; St. Frances X. Cabrini, mother of the immigrant; and Mother Elizabeth Seton, daughter of New York, today. Guests on the private tour meet at the cathedral parish house and make their way down to the deacon's sacristy and then the main sacristy, which contains Archbishop Timothy, Cardinal Dolan Zucchetto, a small silk skullcap worn only by a bishop or pope since the 13th century. His crozier staff, which symbolizes the clergy's governing office, and his liturgical vestments. A visit to the formerly Kelly family's private chapel added in 1900 follows. But the Kelly family never paid, so the beautiful little chapel is now called the Sacristy Chapel. Nearby is a sculpture of the Holy Child of Earth and Heaven. In the 1940s, the Rockefellers were not big fans of the church and built a huge statue of Atlas carrying the world directly opposite the cathedral. The Rockefeller statue is a reminder of their struggle to hold the world on his shoulder. Our God holds the world in the palm of his hand. A metal door leading down to the crypt, where all the archbishops of New York City are buried, has the names of each archbishop, but only their birth dates. Downstairs, their dates of death are embossed on each crypt. There is also a kneeler from Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen, who was buried here for 40 years and then moved to his birthplace in Peoria, Illinois. Back upstairs, each corner of the church contains inlaid plaques of the four gospel writers. There is also an inlaid pelican, the only bird who can feed her young with her own blood. The Lady Chapel, where many couples are married, has a statue of Mary and is now known as Our Lady of New York. Glass doors were added in 2015 to keep the chapel more private. The Stations of the Cross, on loan to the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, are in the transverse, the area of the church from the doors on 50th Street to 51st Street. The stained glass windows were added later because when the building was finished, there was no electricity and they needed sun. One of the stained glass windows, known as the Founder's Window, depicts Archbishop John Hughes, James Renwick, and Cardinal John McCloskey, each with their architectural drawings of the cathedral. St. Patrick's has its own La Pietà, not a copy of Michelangelo's version housed in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, but one sculpted in 1906 by William Ordway Partridge and donated to the cathedral in 1915. The sculpture is about 3 times the size of Michelangelo's version and is one of the church's many treasures. It's also more vertical and less horizontal than Michelangelo's because the stone was heavy and they didn't want cracks. It's my favorite piece in the cathedral. The winding circular staircase led to the choir room with the Kilgan organ, dedicated on February 11, 1930. It took 3 years to build at a cost of $250,000 and is the biggest organ in NYC with 7,855 pipes. I looked down at the block-long building, gazed in awe at the 94 stained glass windows and the main altar, and knew that this mighty cathedral is very holy to me. St. Patrick's Cathedral was designed by James Renwick Jr. with influences from English, French, and German Gothic architecture. It is the largest Gothic Revival Catholic cathedral in North America, as well as the first major Gothic Revival cathedral in the United States. St. Patrick's Cathedral was described by CNN in 2020 as being an essential part of New York City's architectural heritage. The cathedral serves as the seat for the Archdiocese of New York and as a parish church for the Archdiocese within Manhattan. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, over 5 million people visited the cathedral each year. The foundation stones are made of blue gneiss granite set within cement mortar. The lowest horizontal course of the facade, as well as the lowest course under all the interior columns, is made of Dix Island granite from Maine. The exterior is clad in marble quarried in Lee, Massachusetts, and Pleasantville, New York. The main section of the cathedral is made of Tuckahoe marble. Behind the marble blocks are walls made of brick and stone laid in rough masonry with hollow gaps for ventilation. The blocks were so closely laid that, decades after the cathedral's completion, no cracks had formed in them. The side walls are between 3 and 4 feet, 0.91 and 1.22 meters thick, and the clerestory walls above the nave are 3 feet thick. Part of the interior is made of artificial coined stone. The marble for the spires was sourced from Cockeysville, Maryland, and the roof has 343 finials. There are 103 windows on the cathedral in total. The windows are glazed by two thicknesses of sash and glass, set 2 inches, 51 millimeters apart, to regulate interior temperatures and prevent air drafts. The exterior sashes are glazed with figured glass and lead sash, while the interior sashes are glazed with stained glass. The windows of the clear story were made by Morgan Brothers. The cathedral had been constructed with 57 stained glass windows, 37 representing scenes from Scripture, and 20 representing geometrical shapes. 45 of the original windows were manufactured by Nicolas Lorin and Henry Ely in France. Other stained glass windows were added later. Renwick's original sketches show that the tracery near each window was designed with 2 grooves, one for stained glass and one for protective glazing. The nave is about 164 feet or 50 meters long as measured from the Fifth Avenue facade. It measures 96 feet or 29 meters wide if chapels are not included, or around 120 feet or 37 meters wide if the chapels in the side aisles are included. The nave consists of a center aisle and 2 side aisles running west-east. The center aisle is 48 feet or 15 meters wide and 112 feet, 34 meters high, while the side aisles are 24 feet, 7.3 meters wide and 54 feet, 16 meters high. Internally, the nave is divided into 7 bays from west to east. The westernmost bay is part of the towers along Fifth Avenue, and the easternmost bay is part of the transept. The westernmost bay is 26 feet, 7.9 meters wide, and the other bays are 23 feet, 7.0 meters wide. Just inside the entrances within the westernmost bay are busts of Pope Francis, Pope Benedict XVI, Pope John Paul II, and Pope Paul VI, all of whom have previously visited the cathedral. 32 white marble columns divide the center and side aisles. The marble columns are 5 feet 1.5 meters in diameter and are set up in sections weighing 8 short tons, 7.1 long tons, 7.3 t each. Each column consists of multiple smaller columns, 4 at the corners, measuring 12 inches 300 millimeters in diameter and 8 surrounding the central shaft, measuring 6 inches 150 millimeters in diameter. The columns are 35 feet 11 meters tall to the bottom of the arches that support the nave ceiling. Above the center aisle is a series of groin vaults supported by molded ribs with foliate bosses at the intersection of each vault. The ceiling has holes with diameters of 1.5 inches, 38 millimeters. Ropes could be threaded through these holes to allow repairs and cleaning. The side aisles are similar to those at St. Wouan Abbey, Rouen, while the columns and ceiling are similar to British models, such as Westminster Abbey. The sanctuary floor is raised 6 steps above the floor of the nave, connected to it via a set of gray marble steps. The sanctuary is 95 feet 29 meters long and measures 124 feet 38 meters wide. The roof is made of slate, though the clear story roof has a metal cresting 5.5 feet 1.7 meters high. There is a 15-foot-high, 4.6 meters cross at the east end of the roof, which has flowers and foliage ornaments. Under the high altar is a crypt in which notable Catholic figures that served the Archdiocese of New York are entombed. It is accessed by a set of doors behind the high altar. Originally, the entrance to the crypt was hidden by a heavy stone slab that required 6 people to lift. A stone staircase descended to a vault behind a set of slate doors. Large bronze letters with the names of those buried in the crypt are inscribed in the crypt doors. The crypt is about 21 feet 6.4 meters long and 10 feet 3.0 meters high, with a width of 10 feet 3.0 meters between the rows of coffins on either side. The crypt is square in plan, except for a ventilating pipe at the southeast corner. It has space to bury either 24 or 42 people. Fulton J. Sheen, Auxiliary Bishop of New York from 1951 to 1965 and later Bishop of Rochester, was interred in the crypt upon his death in 1979, during the late 2010s. The Archdiocese of New York and his relatives were involved in a 3-year court dispute to keep his remains at St. Patrick's Cathedral. On June 27, 2019, Sheen's remains were disinterred from St. Patrick's and transferred to St. Mary's Cathedral in Peoria, Illinois, where he had been ordained. There are 19 bells at St. Patrick's Cathedral. The bells were created by the firm of Messrs. Picard in France and installed in 1897. They hang in the northern tower of St. Patrick's Cathedral, 180 feet, 55 meters above ground. Since there are fewer than 23 bells, the minimum needed to be able to ring 2 octaves. They hang in a chime instead of a carillon. A 1983 New York Times article reported that the chime was rung every day at 8 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. additionally. On Sundays, the chime was rung every 15 minutes between 10 a.m. and noon, and every 15 minutes between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Sacred Spaces. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And be sure to check out our other videos on iconic churches and cathedrals from around the world. Until next time, may the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you always.